Hey fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, and fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do that all-important comic book review so you, the fans, can make a decision on what comic books to buy. And today, guys, we're talking about Phoenix Resurrection, issue number 1. This is highly anticipated that Jean Grey makes her return. That's right, guys. The cover on this book is really cool, as you get to see that this is like a 3D looking cover, or that's the type of cover that I wound up getting, where we have the Phoenix, Jean Grey, up in front, and then you have all the other X-Men who are right behind her, and they're surrounded in flames, and it looks really cool, and it gets you so hyped up for it. So, does the book live up to its name? Well, we'll find out here in a second. This book is actually written by Matthew Rosenberg, and the actual artwork is done by Linnell Francis Yu. The artwork is pretty good, as you'll get to see through my review in here. I remember Francis Yu doing specifically an Avengers run, which I thought was kind of cool artwork. I think it was Jonathan Hickman's run that he did the pencils on it here, and the pencils were pretty good in this book, and I like the colors and whatnot. A lot of action in certain points, so really good artwork. So let's talk about the story here, shall we? So in the beginning of the issue, we wind up seeing these two kids, they're riding their bicycles. This is what kicks off the story. We wind up seeing a little girl who has blood gushing from her head, and she just says, "Der Brad," she just says these weird words, right? And then what happens is she winds up disappearing, and there winds up this other girl who has this pigeon or this bird or whatever, releases the bird, and all of a sudden these kids wind up going into this trance. And so what happens is this accident has triggered the X-Men to come to this location a couple hours later and doing this investigation. And this infected Rachel Grey as well, as she's getting a bloody nose, and she says that same phrase, that we're not sure what happened here. And our X-Men are looking at these young kids, and they're like 1.6 inches off the ground or something like that, and they got, blood coming through their heads, coming out of their heads, and it's just really crazy. And then the book really kicks off with its title sequence, basically, its title page, and then really everything starts getting going. Now, for me, this book really feels like an X-Men book. For the true first time, this feels like Legacy is come full circle here, and it's gotten all our X-Men together, where we've had all these different X titles, and they've come together, and it makes it feel like a shared X-Men universe. For once, I really feel that in this particular book, which really shines. And so we have Kitty, who really is the Professor Xavier in this issue, has that leadership role, and she says there's this source or this power that's gone to these 3 different locations. So what happens is Kitty winds up going, and she breaks up the X-Men into 3 separate teams. And their teams were kind of cool. You got Jubilee, and you have Storm, and you have, you wind up having Cyclops and Nightcrawler and whatnot. And then you got a couple teams with the young X-Men, and then you have almost Weapon X, and the Weapon X team and whatnot, which is kind of cool as well. So they're all doing this investigating to go through these 3 points that have all these different power or sources of power or whatnot. And you wind up seeing battle against all these different creatures. The one thing that stood out, though, here is that a couple of these creatures or people or mutants or whatever were dead, and yet they have come back. And for instance, now one is Wolverine. So you wind up seeing Old Man Logan go against his younger self. And it doesn't look like it's the Wolverine that we saw from the Legacy issue. It looks like it's just like a hologram or something, or an entity. I don't know, because he winds up disappearing after they do battle against like the Weapon X crew. And same with Rogue. She goes against a creature as well that steals your life force. but then he disappears as well. And Jubilee and her team wind up going against these vampires, and they disappear. So by the time we wind up getting to the end of this, towards the climax of this issue, it winds up going away from the X-Men, and we wind up seeing a young, well, it doesn't, you don't know how old Jean Grey is here, but you see Jean, and she's a waitress, and they wind up seeing an image of a phoenix up here. And you're like, whoa, that's kind of cool. And it specifically shows her name tag is Jean, and she's got the red hair, and she's working with her co-worker, and they're just like, wow, what is that? And they're not sure what to make of it, because it's so far away. So they go back into the actual diner, and you wind up seeing a familiar face with Mr. Cassidy. And you would think that it's not Black Cassidy, it's Sean Cassidy, which is Banshee. But you don't really know. They're just in their normal forms. They're just normal humans at this point in time. And you wind up seeing Jean winds up going back to her house. She meets up with her parents, and we wind up seeing that she's not feeling well. She's not feeling quite right. And they invited a special guest for dinner, but Jean didn't want anything to do with dinner. And her parents are like, well, did you forget? Did you forget who was coming to dinner? She's like, who's coming for dinner? And so as the doorbell rings and she answers the doorbell, she winds up coming across Scott. And you're like, oh. And he's like, hello, sweetheart. You miss me? And she's like, Scott? And it's so weird to see this. So you have two characters that are supposedly dead, but they have like this different life that they don't remember, and yet they're still boyfriend and girlfriend. And that's how the issue ends. And so you're left like, wow, this is quite interesting. So, yeah, what do I think about this? The beginning of the issue was a little bit lengthy because I'm like, where are they going with this? I guess it's all going to lead to Jean Grey eventually. You get all the teams coming together. They're having all these, you know, this powerful sources, you know, these three separate sections. I thought they were going to meet up with the Phoenix or whatever, and that's not the case. They get left with a dead end, basically. And then it cuts over to Jean Grey, and you're just like, all you want is the Jean Grey stuff, right? All you want is, you know, and then you see Scott at the end of it, and you're like, whoa, damn, I want to see more of that. And so you're just like, whoa. So the payoff was really good. You know, you got a lot of dialogue in the beginning. There was a lot of setup. And by the time you get done to it, you're like, shit, I want more. And great setup for the book. I enjoyed it. It's almost more like a teaser than anything, right? It's like you want the whole thing now. I enjoyed it. Good dialogue. Setting things up. I can't wait to see where it goes. I love the leadership role that Kitty is playing here. There's some good humor here with Iceman. It didn't seem forced, and which was nice. And the one thing I still don't like is Vampire Jubilee. I thought she was a little rough. But nevertheless, you know, it's okay. It was a good issue. The main thing here is I finally feel that this was the X-Men book that brought all the X-Men together. And it felt like an X book, in my opinion. It didn't feel like they were just in separate parts of their own universe. They felt together. It felt like a nice type of mutant event, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, I think I'm going to give this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see where the next one goes. So guys, in the comments below, tell me what you thought of this particular issue. Is there certain things that I missed that you caught? Put that in the comments box below as well. And fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And until that next comic book review, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. And I'll see you guys real soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.